we got His Excellency Turkey Al-Ashish, whatever. He's been really in Shakur's ear, and I feel like him and Shakur have had constant communication recently. And we were anticipating a big fight. We thought something major may happen, but I believe we have Joe Cordina, I think is his name. And I would be lying to you, and I would be lying to all our supporters if I told you I knew a lot about Joe Cordina. When I heard the name, I had to go look on BoxRec and just kind of like familiarize myself with his work. He was stopped in his last fight, and allegedly this is gonna be a pay-per-view fight, and it's just like, man, like obviously we're all hoping like for some kind of build up to the Tank fight, right? It's like, and I know Tank's team has kind of been saying like Shakur doesn't really pull his weight as far as like bringing money in. But if that's part of the problem, like this is not a solution. You know what I mean? Joe Cordina, there are better options out there to fight. So, I'll turn it over to you. I'm gonna try to like lighten up my mood. I know I'm just coming off that Tatum thing, but lighten up the mood and bring some positivity to the show today, man. But Joe Cordina, Shakur Stevenson, are you looking forward to that?
Man, I'm sorry, Rule. I'm gonna have to bring the darkness back because this is ridiculous. Like Shakur fighting Joe Cordina, a person that got stopped in his last fight. He got dropped in the third, got stopped in the 8th round, didn't look great in that last fight. To get an immediate title shot is beyond me. And the fact that Shakur actually had options, this just came out with the woodworks for me. I was confused because I know he was somewhat allegedly in negotiations with Tank. So I understand sometimes things fall through, but he also had options with
Murray.
No, Moritai could have been an option as well, but he was going to the fighter under the Golden Boy banner.
William Zepeda.
Yes, Zepeda was like looking like a viable option. So I'm not sure what happened with that for him to go and take on this fight. This is why I do not want to hear from boxers, especially with Shakur Stevenson, that you want to fight the best. Because if you're saying you want to fight the best, why are you fighting fighters like this? There is literally no justified reason as to why you can say you're fighting Joe Cordina. Like there's literally no reason as to why you're fighting him, but that's here nor there. That's boxing, people that just generally like to talk rather than, that's why you gotta look at the actions of fighters, right? Like fighters and who they're fighting consistently. Yeah, you can have an all fight, but come on, Shakur, what was the last fight you had? You had Artem. Before that, you had De Los Santos. If anything, give us a rematch with De Los Santos.
Yeah. I think the De Los Santos rematch is viable. I don't have to tell anybody here that. But yeah, Joe Cordina, it just doesn't make sense. Like you said, William Zepeda, I think people would respect the Zepeda fight. But I think we kind of all felt we weren't going to get the Tank Davis fight, but there's just better options out there. Like I said, Ray Morataya is out there potentially trying to see maybe Frank Martin, you know what I'm saying? Even though Frank Martin lost to Tank, I think he showed enough where people would probably be interested to see how that then goes against Shakur Stevenson, right? Because he has some movement, he has some power, he's not a silly fighter, you know what I mean? So I think even though it was a knockout loss, for Frank Martin, I still think he showed us enough in his bag where people would have been interested in a Shakur fight to see how Shakur would have fared. And then, if Shakur goes in there, and I don't believe this, but if Shakur goes in there and stops Frank Martin, then all that does is build up the Tank fight more. You know what I mean? But I think Frank was an option. I think Murataya was an option. William Zepeda was an option. Man, anything. I mean, try to unify with Berenchik, to get some leverage on the division. Say, okay, you know what? You may be the pay-per-view guy. Loma, you may be the legend, but I got 2 belts now. So if you guys want to be undisputed, you got to come my way to get these 2. You know what I'm saying? Something.
But
man. I don't see no benefit in this. It's just a payday. It just doesn't really make any sense to me.
Yeah, a tune-up, I guess. But this is what I'd be saying. Like, I wouldn't have any issues if boxers just didn't talk the way they talk, right? Like, if there's, you know what, I'm willing to fight, anyone, but sometimes I just like to take some easy fights in between, or instead of saying, oh, I just want to fight the best, no tune. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, that's why I really respect fighters such as like Errol Spence, Caleb Plant, because they're fighting. They're throwing themselves in the line of fire. You don't really see that too often nowadays, So it's really disappointing. That's not, Tim Tszyu. Yeah, those I love those fighters because they're out there, and I'm not saying you got to fight banger after banger, like, but if you're consistently giving those big fights and it makes sense, like, yo, that's what we want to pay for,
Yeah. So I think regardless of the outcome, unless Shakur goes in there and knocks this dude out like cold in the first round, like not a stoppage, just to knock him out. Like the ref has to count to 10. Or matter of fact, he has to be sleep to the point where the ref says, "Nah, I don't even need to count." In the first round, if that doesn't happen, I think this fight's just gonna hurt Shakur's stock.
I agree. It's gonna and it's baffling to me that he doesn't even realize that, or his team realize that. They think that he's just gonna go and just dance around him and box him is only gonna add to the narrative that he's a boring fighter. He's gonna have to do something spectacular. If this guy comes out, if Joe comes out and just looks even better than what we've seen in his last couple fights, that's gonna hurt Shakur's stock. I absolutely agree with that. But that's not my issue. That's his life. So
so I mean the fight will happen. I'll watch it. Hopefully it doesn't come on too late. So, I mean, like I'm not even trying to be funny here, and I know people are saying Shakur's fights put them to sleep, but please bring this fight early. Don't make it, what I'm saying? Don't have an Eminem concert before. Don't have this fight starting at 1 a.m. You know what I'm saying? Like, please, like I'm begging you, Turkey Alashish. Please, like, we need this fight at 10 p.m. or something like that. Don't make it a 1 p.m. fight because, people are really looking into these fights. People are trying to assess these boxers, analyze these fighters, be able to make predictions. And, generally we follow these fighters, so just don't do that. Or the other thing I hate too is I hate the Thursday fight. So please, no 1 a.m. fight for this and no Thursday fight. You know what I'm saying? As long as we don't get those two things, I'm not going to be excited, but I will watch the fight.
Yeah. Good point.